Hello, everybody. We want to give you a quick promo. We've got another show coming up with Gilion Dumas. She's back again, Lee.
Well, and today she's going to talk about the Rose City Reader, which is her blog about, well, the book ecosphere, I suppose you could say, and tell us what she's been doing on the blog. She's celebrating the 16th anniversary of it today.
Last year she read 150 books, or at least listened to 150 books, or some combination thereof.
That's very impressive. Very impressive.
Very impressive. Always good to have another Portlandian on the show. Join us, everybody, for the upcoming edition of the Rare Book Cafe. I am so excited. We are having another edition of the Rare Book Cafe, the book lovers rendezvous. My co-host Linn, Ridge Books, Calhoun, Georgia. Hey, Lee.
Hey, Ed. I'm here with my coffee break mug and looking forward to talking to Gilion Dumas about the Rose City Reader, her blog.
And she's back with us on the 16th anniversary of her blog. Holy smokes, you've been reviewing books for 16 years. I understand that last year you read over 150 books. You figure that at 150 times 16, that's a lot of books.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I've always been a big reader. My parents motivated me to learn to read and keep reading by paying me a dime for every book I read.
Ah.
And it worked. I started reading when I was 3 and haven't stopped.
And what is it that you read?
I didn't hear you.
What is it that you read? What kind of books do you like to read?
I read general fiction, literature, memoir, biography, general nonfiction, sort of entertaining nonfiction, some history, and a lot of mysteries. Love mysteries, and I love vintage mysteries.
And anything on the back of the cereal box that's in front of you.
Yeah, or the wine label. Yeah.
Right, yes. Well, we can relate to that.
Yeah.
I looked on your blog, which I hate to admit that I have not been following, but perhaps I should now.
Yeah.
Tell us exactly what your blog is and how it works.
Okay, so Rose City Reader, which is called that because I'm here in Portland, Oregon, the Rose City, and I started it to keep track. I'm a compulsive list reader. I am working my way through the lists of a lot of books. And I started the blog after I had finished the last book on the Modern Library's Top 100 Books of the 20th Century. That came out in 1999. It was a big thing. So I tackled that list. I read them all. And then I realized there were all these other lists, either knockoffs of that one, or, all the winners of the Pulitzer Prize for fiction, or the winners of the National Book Award for fiction, that kind of thing. And so I wanted a place where I could keep track of all those lists other than just scraps of paper and little, notes and stuff. And so I started a blog, this blog, thinking that that's where I would keep track of all these lists and my progress on them. And nobody else was going to read it. I was thinking it was more like going to be an online diary, almost like my online book diary. But then once I started it, I realized that there were lots of other people who had book blogs, and they like to go visit each other's book blogs. And so people started reading my blog. I started reading theirs. People do little bloggy things together, and and it kind of took off from there, and it's gone up and down over the years, depending on how busy I am at work. You know, what's going on in real life. I have to, you know, sometimes I barely post at all. Sometimes I post, you know, there was a time when I posted almost every day. And then in the last couple of years, since I've had my own law firm, I posted maybe once a week. I'm trying to get better now. I'm trying to get more into it again, which is the great thing about a blog. It's always there. I mean, nobody's going to take it away from you. It's there, just kind of like a diary. You know, your diary's sitting by your bedside, whether you're writing in it every day or once a month. Same with your blog.
And
But
I know that you read a lot of these books online or through your headphones, but you're really
yes,
fortunate to be in Portland, Oregon, which is a great book town.
it absolutely, yeah. And that is where I get a lot of, I mean, I mostly buy secondhand books. I rarely buy something new unless I'm reading it for book club. Um, so yeah, which is why so many books come in, more books come in than go out. I'm trying to fix that flow. But that's the, you know, book lover's problem, right? We're always having more
Yeah.
books than we could ever read in a lifetime. And that's sure for me too. And you know, yeah, so I keep track of them on Rose City Reader. I keep track of the ones that have come in. I keep track of the ones that are, you know, as I work my way through the lists. I keep track of those, try to write more reviews and notes and different just things of my book thoughts. Keep track of those. And then the one thing that is steady week after week after week is that I do host this blog event where other bloggers come to Rose City Reader and share their link to their own posts. And every Friday we post the opening sentence from the book we're reading that week,
Hmm.
or just a book that caught our fancy and we want to highlight it. So that's something that keeps me at least signing in, putting up some content, interacting with the fellow book bloggers, and you know, unfortunately learning about even more books that I'd like to read. So
Now, Lee has a very active book club. I wonder if you're picking up some ideas here, Lee, for your club.
Well, I very well might be. We always do pick up. We're meeting Sunday night, and we're reading Still Alice by Lisa Genova, which is a novel about a woman with early onset Alzheimer's, written from her point of view. It was made into a movie in the last few years. It is I was talking to a friend last night in the book club. In many ways, for those of us who are approaching our 80s, a terrifying, terrifying book. Because now every time I forget anything, in reading the book, you almost put yourself in her position, and it is written from what she is feeling. And it is it's well written. It's a very interesting book, and it's it was recommended to us by one of our members' daughter, who is a generation younger, of course, and she's going to join us for the book club meeting to talk about how her generation reacted to the book. And which I think is going to be, I think it's going to be an interesting, I think that's going to be an interesting take on it. But we're always looking for books. We're always looking for books to read. Always.
Gillian, have you done any blurbs? I would imagine with your prolificness and reading, some authors might want to have you on their back cover.
I have done a few blurbs. It's always exciting for me because I like it. Then you see it, you know, such and such page turner or whatever, you know, power of forgiveness, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Rose City Reader. And I say, hey, that's me.
I know. So, yes. I did one blurb one time, and it was so much fun, and it was just a real treat.
Yeah, it is. It's fun. I mean,
and see your name on the book, the back of the book.
Right.
A lot of people have a passionate position about blurbs versus book descriptions on the rear of a book. Where do you stand on that, Gillian?
I think the blurb, well, I like the description on the back myself because I like to see what the book is about before I read it. But I do like a couple of blurbs underneath that, just little short ones, just so I could see, or, you know, Stephen King. Excellent. I don't know. It seems like you always see a few, like if they get something from a famous person, then
Right.
it's like really short.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do get, like all bloggers, I do get books. Sometimes publishers will send me books, or authors, or book publicists. And so, you know, like this is the last one. This came in yesterday. Cabaret Macabre by Tom Mead, who is he is in England writing vintage style crime books. And so I don't take a lot because I have a busy time with my day job, but every once in a while something will come by that sounds really good to me, and so then I grab it, like this one. And then that's the kind of thing that I would feature on that on Friday with the book beginnings thing that people do. So that's kind of things that come along that help me read some books that I would not otherwise read.
Not to brag or anything, but after 16 years, how many followers do you have?
Oh, you
Yes.
know, not as many as I had when I posted every day, that's for sure.
Right. It does fluctuate because of volume.
Yeah, it does. And you know, it's usually right around 3,000, which is not a lot. There are book bloggers who have, you know, 50,000. Well, they're not usually regular book bloggers. They're like the arm of some, you know, magazine or something, but they're famous people who have book blogs, and they have tens of thousands of followers.
3,000 is pretty darn good in my opinion.
Yeah, it sounds like it is.
I wonder how long it's been since they've tuned in, though. You know, there are followers, and then there are engaged followers.
Yeah, we have some of those, I think, on Rare Book Cafe too.
Good.
those that are, you know, every once in a while.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's always nice to see, like, oh well, they liked it enough to click for, you know, that moment.
Right, right.
Other thing I love about your blog, Gillian, is it's photographically artistic, and you have such
It
a
is. It's very
nice
pretty.
style of positioning the books with on your shelf or on a table with your china. Is that something you learned on your own just over the years?
Oh yeah, and now well, that is something that I have been getting better at once I got on Instagram, which was about 5 years ago or 6 years ago.
Very
So
visual source.
yeah, and that made me sort of look at what other people were doing and take more interesting pictures. And what is on Instagram is not what's on the blog, and what's on the blog isn't on Instagram, but they do kind of cross over. And I'm trying to do more of that with, you know, if I found something that I thought was interesting enough to post on Instagram, which you're limited in the length of what you can write, then I have been trying to take those same pictures or the same content and put it on the blog and just write more fulsomely on that topic, to try to, you know, let them work together a little bit. I mean, Instagram is fun, but there's reason that Insta is in it, you know, it's quick and fast, and you're just putting something up there and saying, hey, and the blog is definitely more time consuming, more thoughtful.
For me, Instagram is on my phone, blogs and Facebook are on my computer.
Exactly.
That's how I
Yeah.
distinguish the two.
As do I. Yeah, because trying to read a blog on your phone, I find to be
Very difficult.
Yeah, really difficult. Even if you've got one that's you know, mobile compatible, it still is usually like this big. Yeah, and I do the same thing. And Rose City Reader is also on Facebook, and with that, it's even shorter. Those are on Facebook. There's no original content. It's only, here's what I put on the blog today. You know, it is about, you know, this book or women authors or whatever. Click through and read more. So
in 16 years, what trends have you seen in the publishing industry?
In the publishing industry,
because I mean, lots of the books that you read are relatively new ones.
Sure. And well, you know, the changes obviously that are way more self-published books, because the technology is there now for authors to publish their own book. in a very professional looking way. The one I showed you is from a mainstream publisher. But for example, like this one is a book that is called Thirst, a novel by Kate L. Barron, a woman who lived in part of Saudi Arabia with the Bedouins. And she wrote this novel about her experiences. Well, it's a fantastic book and it looks great. I mean, that's a nice looking cover. It's got that matte paper that feels so good on your fingers. But it's, it's from she published it herself through an independent publisher who, works with authors to publish their books. And that's the biggest change I've seen certainly in the last 16 years. I mean, that barely existed when I started the blog, which is hard for authors. I think it's great.
Plus you save a lot of time writing all those query letters.
Exactly. You spend your time marketing your book instead, which I am sure is not easy, but yeah, and maybe it's more fun to actually.
How do these authors then go on tours and go do readings? Is there another agency out there that helps them with that part of the business?
As I think that they either do it themselves or they hire a book publicist who helps them do that. That's another thing that I didn't see exist really. Independent book publicists that individual authors could buy. That's a new thing. I always remember though that like our founding fathers self-published, Benjamin Franklin self-published, so there's no shame in self-publishing.
Patrick Henry?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these people, they wrote their book and then they had to go pay to have it printed and then they went and sold it. And there's certainly nothing wrong with that. And I'm trying to think about what other changes I've seen. Certainly the books being published now are more diverse than they were 16 years ago. And so we're seeing a wider range of authors having their
I think we're seeing a lot more memoirs as well.
Oh, I wondered if that was just my brain, but I think you're right. I mean, memoirs seem to have just taken off and other creative nonfiction type books. And I think that's partly to do with the self-publishing because you can go take classes in memoir writing or just do it off the top of your head and then go self-publish your memoir. And there it is on Amazon and you can, sell it to Kindle readers or sell it in an actual paper copy.
And it doesn't look like it was done on a mimeograph machine, which so many other self-published books.
Right, which boy they used to.
Yeah.
Didn't they? You see some shiny cover with a bad blurry photograph and Comic Sans font, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
You better work on that a little. Yeah. I mean, it makes a big difference to have a nice cover. I will say that because there are some that you can't, unless you're really paying attention, you would think this is a full book, put out by a big publisher, and it must be great. I'm susceptible to that kind of visual clues. Yeah.
Which is why I'm attracted to your blog site because it's visually pleasing, and again, it sucks you in.
Well, good, thank you, Ed.
All right, Gilion Dumas, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for sharing with us your update on the Rose City Reader. Everybody, get out there, sign up. Let's get her to 4,000 followers.
Hey, that sounds good.
She's 3/4 of the way there.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Ed. All right, good to be on.
Bye-bye, Lee.
Bye-bye.